Hello, BookTube.
Hey, everybody.
So today we're going to tackle a tag that James Holder came up with. We'll post his channel down at in the descriptions at the end of the video. This is the Star Trek tag, and I'm excited.
Yeah, this takes every Star Trek series and gives them a prompt, and then we have to come up with answers for the prompts as is the way with most tags. But these are some of my favorite prompts ever because we are huge Star Trek fans.
Yeah, really big Star Trek fans.
Yep.
So let's dive face first into this. Number one, the original series. Pick a book that has influenced you or has been influential in your choice of career. I'm going to go first, and this book hasn't been influential in my choice of career. It's been influential to me.
Either. Because my choice of career, what I'm doing, has nothing to do with what I am educated to do. So, yeah.
So my first book is The Lord of the Rings. It's actually just one book, but it's separated into three for publishing purposes. And it's The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. And the reason this is so influential to me is, well, I'm named after one of the characters. My middle name is Galadriel. And so it's basically been with me since the beginning of time for me. And when I was 12, we actually listened to it on audio cassette. Well, we were on a family trip somewhere, listened to it in the car, the little tape deck. But yeah, this is the Lord of the Rings has been with me every step of the way. It sort of formed my love of fantasy and storytelling and the hero's journey and all that. And I just can't get enough of it. I love it.
Peter Jackson did an awesome job with the movies as well.
He really did.
I know there are some who don't like some of the choices he made and stuff like that. But I think as a whole, he did a very good job.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So my favorite is Dune. It's another book I talk about a whole lot. The first Dune novel. It's the first really large book that I read. It's not just a massive book, but it is a rather large book.
It's pretty chunky.
Yeah, it is. And but the thing about it is, this is one of those books that I had put down once. Everybody told me that I should read, but then I had other people telling me that they couldn't get past the first 60 pages. Well, I found out that when I got past the first 75 or so pages, the book grabbed me and didn't let go. I finished this book really quickly when I was about 16 or 17.
It's like Stephen King. You have to read the first quarter of the book.
Yep.
To be rewarded with the good stuff.
Yeah, this book showed me that I could read large books, and that I could get through them. And it also showed me not to take anyone else's opinion for gospel. Read it myself.
I think I was 30 the first time I read it.
Yeah,
and it's because he told me to.
Yeah, and you enjoyed it.
I did. It was an extremely good book. I was surprised because I'd actually seen the movie once, and I was
the movie's very strange. It's a completely different thing. Some love it. I do like it. But it is not the same thing as the book.
Well, it also has Kyle MacLachlan in it.
Well, yeah. But I like him. All right, go ahead.
I don't. Anyway, number 2, The Next Generation. Pick a book in the same genre as the original series, published between 20 and 100 years later.
This is because The Next Generation was 20 years after the original series, and I don't know if I can't remember. Did the show take place 20 years after the original series?
No, I think the show took place quite a few years after the original series.
Like maybe 100.
No. But, maybe actually, it's quite a few.
I really don't remember.
Yeah, I was thinking there was one episode with James Doohan in it, but it's that there was time travel involved. I can't remember.
Yeah.
What you're supposed to do with this one is you're supposed to take a book that's of the same genre of your first pick. So I'm taking a book of the same genre as The Lord of the Rings, and I chose The Belgariad. Again, it's a series by Terry Brooks, but it's 5 books. But again, it's all one linear story. So it just makes sense to me. This is another one that stuck with me. I read it when I was 11 years old. I actually read it out loud to my mother. And it's just been sort of my bread and butter as far as fantasy is concerned. I find myself comparing every fantasy novel I read to the Belgariad and The Lord of the Rings. It's a bad habit that I can't help it.
Yeah, kind of. That's all right, though. Mine, my pick came out exactly 25 years. It was published exactly 20 years, I'm sorry, after Dune, and it was Ender's Game. Ender's Game. I know I'm not being very imaginative with these picks, but Ender's Game is fun. I mean, it is so much fun.
Yeah, it is.
Now, I mean, but again, I don't know that I could read it these days and enjoy it as much because the surprise is gone. And a good part of that book was the surprise at the end.
Yeah, that absolute shock at that ending.
Yeah, and it was very shocking. But
yeah,
one day I will pick it up again and just see what it does. It's not a long novel; it's a fairly short book, very fast to read. So I'll do that again someday.
Yeah. Now, number 3 is Deep Space Nine. Pick a book with a strong sense of setting. He chose that because Deep Space Nine is, Deep Space Nine is the setting. It's a space station. It's the whole thing revolves around where they are. So my choice for this one, I had trouble with it because I actually, 2 or 3 days ago, I had a great idea in my head of one I wanted to choose, but then I forgot it.
Mm-hmm.
and had to choose a different one, so I'm telling you both of them because I want to. The first one is, the new one is The Elementals by Michael McDowell. Again, we keep talking about this book, but it's because it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it takes place on a beach in 3 Victorian houses all side by side. In the middle one, there's something wrong with it. And it is all setting. It is the most amazing setting building that I've ever read in a book.
Two of the houses? Oh no, it's just one of the houses is filling with sand and nobody knows why.
Yeah, the 3 houses are owned by this one family,
Mm-hmm.
a very influential political family, and the 2 over here, the 2 on either end are lived in. The one in the middle is not, because again, there's just something wrong with it. It's filling with sand. People can't live there. It's amazing.
Yeah, so good.
And the second one I chose is another series, and this is the Nightside series by Simon R. Green. And again, these books are just like 95% setting. The Nightside is the hidden heart of London where it's always 3 a.m. and the moon is like right there. And time doesn't pass right. It's very
good
cool.
setting. Very good setting. I think did these come out before the Jim Butcher books?
I want to say yes, but I might be wrong. I'm
not sure either.
I haven't looked it up.
I definitely prefer them to the Butcher books. I don't like them. I don't like the Jim Butcher books, but I really do like the Nightside series.
And see, I like the Jim Butcher books. I'm a big fan of Harry Dresden, but even still, Simon R. Green is easily one of my very favorite urban fantasy novels.
I think one of the things that turned me against Harry Dresden was actually James Marsden doing the.
We listened to it on audiobook.
God, what a lazy ass writer or reader.
His reading is kind of monotone. I dig it. He didn't.
I hated it.
But Simon R. Green has a way of building a setting that I've never encountered anywhere else.
Very cool.
Now your turn.
Yep. Mine is The Ruins by Scott Smith. A lot of people know what a simple plan is, but unless you're a horror reader, you probably don't know The Ruins. The Ruins, I think, is kind of billed as a thriller. This book is a horror book through and through. It has some gruesome stuff in it, but I think you would like it if you were to read it.
Okay.
I mean, it's no more gruesome than a lot of the movies that we've watched and love, like some of the zombie movies and things like that. But it is a lot more scary than that.
It's gonna be like The Shining was for me. I just know it. I'm gonna have to put it down at 3:00 in the morning and only read it during the daylight hours.
Yeah.
When nothing can jump out and get me.
Yeah, the book is very affecting. I mean, it is very effective in a lot of different ways.
Didn't they make a movie of it?
They did. And
was it?
It's not great, but it's not terrible either.
All right.
It's okay.
Okay.
This is one of them where I really love the book a lot more.
That's good to know.
Yep.
All right, number 4, Voyager. Well, this one's self-explanatory. Pick a book about a journey or a voyage. That's a big pool to choose from. I chose Swan Song by Robert R. McCammon. Again, I cannot stop talking about this one, just like The Elementals.
Well,
the book has such incredible scope. It is apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic. And the journey that these people don't even realize they're on is huge
Yeah.
in scope.
Huge
It's
for mankind.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely magnificent. And if you get a chance to listen to it on audiobook, do yourself a favor and do it.
It's excellent. The narrator is very good.
On Audible. The narrator is amazing. He's fantastic.
He's the opposite of James Marsden. So, okay,
I like James Marsden.
mine about a voyage is Moby Dick. And again, I'm not using much imagination about this. This is another book that I try to get people to read, and they think it's just going to be this awful, difficult read that is hard to get anything out of. It was exactly the opposite for me.
It's because most of them read The Old Man and the Sea first.
Yeah, maybe. Which is a very inferior book.
That's a slog.
But Moby Dick is awesome. I mean, you have got to read this thing. In my opinion, it is the great American novel. It is the best American novel I've ever read. And maybe one day somebody will write something, or I'll read something that I like more. But so far,
good luck with that one, buddy.
Yeah, this thing is amazing. So if you haven't tried it, give it a try and go more than 50 pages. Just give it a chance. Keep going with it, and see where you end up with it.
Just keep on keeping on.
I love it. It is not as intimidating as it seems.
Not at all.
Yeah.
All right, number 5, Enterprise. This one, this prompt comes about because Enterprise is a pretty heavy-duty prequel to the original series, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's like the first Enterprise.
Yeah, well, I believe it is right after First Contact.
Okay.
With aliens.
Yeah, so it's the first crew of the first Enterprise.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so returning to the original series in the Next Generation, pick a book published between 200 and 100 years
20
before...
and 100 years.
200. Between 20 and 100 years before your original pick. Now, I kind of, screwed myself on this one because I chose The Lord of the Rings for my first pick, which was published in 1948. And The Lord of the Rings sort of defined the hero's journey. Well, it did define the hero's journey. And basically defined fantasy novels thereafter.
Well, yeah, any modern fantasy novel has taken heavily from Tolkien.
Yeah. So we had to look up a list of books, of fantasy novels that were written before Lord of the Rings, because for some reason we both drew a blank. And I chose one of the first ones that I had read, and it's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. It was actually written in 1878. And there were others like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dracula, Treasure Island. Was it one of them? I think so. But I liked Alice's Adventures in Wonderland because it's more fantastic. It has more of the hero's journey to it.
Yeah, more of the fantasy feel.
Yeah.
With mine is The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, written in 1896. It is the same genre as Dune, being science fiction. But what was really cool about The Island of Dr. Moreau was that it seemed ahead of its time.
Yeah, it did.
It had a lot to do with genetic splicing and things like that. And I really enjoyed this.
Way ahead of its time. I had no idea it was published that long ago.
Yeah, 1896.
I didn't have any idea it was that old.
Yeah, great book. I really enjoyed it. I read it when I was a kid. I was probably 12, 13. And I watched that abomination of a movie that they put out back in the 90s, I guess it was, 80s or 90s.
And that movie had absolutely no right to be as bad as it did. It had an amazing cast.
It had a great cast, but...
Just a great cast, and just...
God, what a horrid piece of crap.
Threw them away.
Yep.
Oh, that's awful, too.
Yep.
All right, number 6, Discovery. And again, this one's kind of self-explanatory. Pick a book that has divided the fandom or community.
Which Discovery has.
Yeah, it really has.
I mean, some of the writing is just really not very good. But, on a whole, I really like it. You know, there were some bad episodes of the original series, just like there are some bad episodes of Discovery.
Well, the thing about Star Trek is they really, really depend on the camaraderie and the trust on the bridge. between the officers. You cannot have a good Star Trek show without that trust and without that bond.
Yeah.
And it was completely lacking in the first season of
Completely.
Discovery. And they were building it. They were building it as they went. And so the second season is a lot more rewarding because it's more Star Trek.
Yeah.
Because the officers actually really care about each other, and they have each other's backs. In other words, it's not that den of vipers that the first season was.
Yeah.
So, divided the fandom or community, I picked Twilight. Because that's why. You've never met anybody who was just, it was pretty good. They either hated it or they loved it. There's just doesn't seem to be a gray area with Twilight. And it's kind of sad. But when I first read it, I actually read all 4 books in like 3 days. And I loved them at the time, but now after I put them down and started thinking about the book, I'm like, whoa, that's kind of weird.
Well,
that's not good at all.
Well, it's divisive for a reason.
It's kind of creepy.
Divisive for a reason. Yeah.
So I'm on the I'm not a fan of that at all side, but yeah, it's extremely divisive.
Yeah, mine. Possibly one of the most divisive novels in the history of books, which is Lolita by Nabokov, written in 1955. And when I found out it was written in 1955, I was really surprised because
it's the modern era.
Yeah, it's the modern era, but I think this book is more controversial now than it was then.
Yeah, because
65 years later, because more attention now is paid to child abuse and child sexual abuse. And
we've accepted that older guy and 13-year-old girl is a bit creepy.
Oh yeah, I mean even more now than in 1955. But I mean the novel was not written as a romance. This novel, no, the novel is divisive and was written with the author knowing it was going to be divisive.
I think it was supposed to make your skin crawl.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really did mine.
Absolutely, yeah.
You do have to read it, though.
For sure.
Because everybody has to be able to say, oh my God.
I have not read it. I've read passages from it and stuff like that, but I have not read the entire book. I have seen the Lolita movie that... who was in that movie? Jeremy Irons was in it.
Jeremy Irons. Well, that couldn't have helped. You hate Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, I'm not a big Jeremy Irons fan. I know he's loved.
He did creepy older guy well.
Yeah, but he's loved in the community, and I just don't get it.
I hate Jeremy Irons.
But that's fine. And the last one?
The last one is the fun one. It's Picard, number 7. Pick a book that wears its influences on its sleeve. Well, because Picard is very much dependent on all the run of the other Star Trek shows. Of course it is. My choice for this one is The Sword of Shannara.
That's right.
All right, by Terry Brooks. I've been saying it wrong for years, and then I learned to say it right, and now I don't know if I'm saying it right, even when I'm saying it right. This book is so obviously influenced.
Yeah, pick a book that wears its influences on its sleeves.
Yeah.
I don't know if you said that.
I think I did.
Or you may have. I don't know.
I don't know. This book is so obviously influenced by The Lord of the Rings, and even by the Belgariad around that time, and all the hero's journey stories that came after The Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's a wizard, Alanon, coming and heralding away a young boy onto a quest that includes magic. It's the hero's journey, like in copy and paste.
Yeah.
And I don't like this series, by the way.
It's a much weaker entry into the high fantasy.
Alanon is just not as good of a character as either Belgarath or Gandalf. I mean, just not at all.
No.
He's very, very...
very vanilla.
Two-dimensional. Very vanilla.
Yeah.
And the second book of the series just pissed me off.
Yeah.
Made me so mad.
So my pick, another divisive book, but I had a really almost violent negative reaction to this book. And it is either number 1 or 2 of the worst books I've ever read. Just depending on what day. But it's Ready Player One by Ernest Clines. Man, I hated this book. This is the most pandering, boring novel I have ever read. I mean, it panders so heavily to its audience. He doesn't even try to explain what something looks like. He explains it as though he did this as this character did in the video game from 1987. I mean, that is how boring.
It's kind of lazy writing.
And it's very lazy, and how little imagination he used. I know this is one of the most successful sci-fi books of the last 20 years, probably. But
I love the movie.
I would say this is my least favorite sci-fi book. And the only book that may top it would be From a Buick 8 by Stephen King.
A Stephen King novel. My goodness.
Yeah, I like some Stephen King novels. I've liked about half of what I've read by Stephen King. I try. The Outsider was very good. One of his later novels. But man, From a Buick 8 was just a horrible attempt at a novel. He never ended the book, which I know he has terrible problems with endings, but with that one, he just never ended it. And
that's like me in the Dark Tower series.
Yeah, really, really, really bad book.
I've never been so mad in my life when I finished the Dark Tower series. If you finished it, you know why.
If you love the Dark Tower series, don't leave us. I mean, if you
leave over a differing opinion, we're going to have trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of trouble.
Yeah, because I do have some unpopular opinions, and we may do that unpopular opinions tag one of these days.
He won't let me do it
if we don't think it'll drive people away. Well, one of your, yeah, okay.
It's awful, and you know it.
Yeah.
All right, so, just as a little Easter egg in deference to to Ready Player One, we're going to give you just a little rundown of our list of the shows in order from least to best.
From worst to best.
Worst to best. Yeah. So here's mine, really quick. Worst to best: Enterprise, Picard, the original series, Discovery, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and The Next Generation. And the only reason Picard is where it is because there's only been like 6 episodes. It is subject to change.
6 or 7, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So mine is Picard, and again, possibly only because it only has a few episodes. We don't know where it's going to end up. Enterprise, which I liked, but I didn't love it as much as some of the others, and I really need to go back and watch some of the episodes.
We should probably just start it from beginning.
Yeah, we should. Discovery. I really do enjoy watching Discovery, and I'm hoping that it does pick up a better
momentum.
Yeah, better momentum with the fandom, the Star Trek fandom. Next Generation. I'm not as in love with it as some. Picard is not even in my top 3 captains.
Oh, my captain.
Yeah, he's okay, but Voyager. I really like Voyager.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's completely underrated. Deep Space Nine, which, God, I can watch that show anytime, any place. But my favorite is the original series, Captain Kirk, and McCoy. Those are my favorite characters of all time.
Yeah, see, the original series is way towards the bottom for me. I didn't grow up with it. I did not watch much of that show.
I didn't either.
When I was a kid. But no, see, the thing is my the way I see the original series, like the first time I ever saw any bulk of it was with you when we were watching it together. Yeah. He got
but that made me fall in love with it even more. When we did it.
I think maybe it's because I'm female.
No, I don't think so. I mean...
they treat women like idiots in some of those episodes.
I'll be 45 years old this year, so I wasn't even alive when the show came out. But...
I think you saw more of it than I did as a kid.
I think it had more heart than any of the other shows.
See, that's how I feel about The Next Generation.
Yeah, I don't feel that with Next Generation.
The characters, and I love the camaraderie. I love it.
Well, they're all good shows.
Oh yeah,
and I recommend all of them. And I recommend 5 of the books that I put on my list. So,
yep. I recommend about 5. That's about right. Okay, so we're going to tag a handful of people that we think will really enjoy this tag. And we'll post their channels and James Holder's channel. James Holder, who created this tag.
And even if you're not a Star Trek fan, you don't have to do what we did with the rating the Star Trek shows and anything like that. You can just do the
just do the tags. They're fun.
Yeah.
You don't have to have anything to do with Star Trek.
Just do the prompts.
The prompts, yes. Okay, so we're going to tag Noah over at Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse. We think you're going to like this one. Jason over at Old Blues Chapter and Verse, David Wardrop, Megan over at Megan's Reading Revelations, Alan over at Big Hard Books and Classics, and Jen over at Remembered Reads. We think you're all going to enjoy this tag. So go ahead and go over to their channels, give their videos a watch. They all have some really great channels.
Yeah.
Some really great booktubers. So,
and the only reason we didn't put Steve Donahue on here is he's already been tagged by James. And Steve's trying to catch up on these, so he may be a little bit.
He got this huge influx of tags.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
So, and we're going to put everybody's channels at the bottom, including James Holder. Thanks, James, for putting this tag out. It's a very good one.
It's loads of fun.
Yeah, it is.
So anyway, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah. Your books are calling. Go read.